Let's talk about a commander no one's playing. 5-minute deck tech. Malik, Grim Manipulator, is 2 red, white, and a black for a 4/3 legendary creature human rogue. When Malik, Grim Manipulator, enters the battlefield, you and target opponent each secretly choose a creature that player controls. Then those choices are revealed, and that player sacrifices those creatures. Whenever an opponent sacrifices a creature, you create a treasure token. Malik has less than 600 total decks on EDHREC, and I think the main contributor to his lack of adoption as a commander is due to his status as being one of the in-universe cards for the very first Secret Lair Universes Beyond. He was originally released as Negan the Cold-Blooded, and that brought a couple of big issues. The first was that he was a morally corrupt and controversial character that people did not want to see in Magic. The second issue was more overarching and affected all the cards from this release, and that was that they were functionally unique without an in-universe version of these cards, and there was nowhere else to purchase them, so you had to buy them direct from Wizards through Universes Beyond. Due to that controversy, Wizards did release in-universe versions of those cards on the list, which is why we got Malik, Grim Manipulator, and I want to remind you guys he exists. Malik has 2 powerful abilities, and you could focus on either or a mixture of both when building your deck. For the purposes of this deck tech, I focused on the Enters the Battlefield effect, because I think if you focus on the second ability, then your game plan is going to require you to have your 5-mana commander sit out, accruing you value over multiple turns, and at least in my experience, that doesn't typically tend to happen in commander games. The exciting thing about this type of build is that we always have access to this very powerful creature removal that it's very difficult for your opponents to avoid. Let's break down how this ability actually works. So the only target in the ability is the player. So your opponents have only a few interaction points. They can interact with this on the stack by countering the spell, or they can interact when you target when the creature enters the battlefield. Once the ability starts resolving, they've missed their window. So what that means is their traditional responses like sacrificing the creature in response or blinking it with their own blink spell in response is not going to be effective at all. As the Malik player, you have a couple of options for resolving this trigger, and neither of them are objectively correct. You can either pick the most valuable target that they have and always get the removal on it, hoping that they pick something else, and then you will sometimes get an additional value treasure and creature removed off of that. Or you can play the mind game and pick one of their low value creatures, hoping that they pick their high value creature. You can sort of condition your opponents to do this for you if you always pick the high value creature for a few in a row and then pick a low value one. Let's talk card packages. We're going to start out with the setup cards. These are cards you really want out before you cast Malik. Panharmonicon's going to double up our Malik triggers, so it's going to be perfect for this deck. We also have Elish Norn, Mother of Machines, to double those triggers and shut down our opponent's Enters the Battlefield effects. Flame Shadow Conjuring is a special treat for this deck. Since you control both Enters the Battlefield effects, you get to stack them. That means you can pay for the copy with the treasure generated by the resolution of Malik's effect. We also want ways to trigger those Enters the Battlefield effects at instant speed and also protect our creatures. We can do that with Ephemerate, Ghost Way, and Eerie Interlude. The last 2 specifically let us do our whole team, so these are sort of like the Teferi's protections of this deck. For other high value blink targets, we have Ravenous Chupacabra, Cardor Doomscourge, and Archon of Cruelty. These cards are very important for when our commander becomes inaccessible. For finishers, we have cards like Terror of the Peaks and Perforos, God of the Forge. These cards are going to give us the reach to close out the game. So those are just a few of the best cards in the deck. If you want to see the full deck list, make sure to check my Moxfield link in my bio. And lastly, this is a control list. That's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but if you are into it, then just make sure your playgroup is ready for this level of policing before you bring Malik to the table.